All right. Check one, check two. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour. With your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming back with episode 225 in the middle of July. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have some coffee just for you. I got some Kirkland's coffee here, straight from Costco. I got a big bag of backup when the good stuff runs out. But this stuff is great. Medium roast, I can always do some medium roast. Ground up that medium roast. I had some great Cannabis, New York certified from the Housing Works. It's a back home. I love those guys. It's a strand called Pot of Gold, and it's 17% THC, which isn't that strong, but I don't know. It still seems pretty strong to me. As you know, I've been tapering off a little bit. Well, just trying to find a little bit of space in between smoking, but at the same time enjoying life. But I have to say, it came in such good hand. I had a tooth extraction. I don't want to talk about the podcast too much because it's still painful. I don't wish it on anybody. But it went down and it was what it was. And thank God I had some cannabis to get me through, because they literally just gave me some ibuprofen. Ibuprofen? I am profren. That's good coffee. Well, it was so good I drank a whole pot. I actually had to make an extra pot for this podcast, but I didn't make a full pot, so this is like a pot and a half, but not two big pots. Maybe like a pot and a quarter of coffee, and then I had the strand is Pot of Gold, so Pot of Coffee Gold all day. The Cannabis Coffee Hour is coming out today, episode 225. I've been laying low, healing up. That's been the energy, but I feel everybody kind of going through it right now. There's a weird energy going on. I think it might be all the psychedelic mushrooms everybody's taking and raving about in mainstream culture. Like, I see kind of a bend happening. That all the stuff that we've been talking about, whether it's mental health or stretching or cannabis or doing your art, applying yourself, doing gig work, getting by, drinking coffee, getting high. Yeah, that's what I think. It just, the whole world is changing, and that's what's so excited about doing the podcast. Everybody, I'm going to take this, I'm not going to talk about it. It's just going to evolve naturally. Like lately, I've been trying to let things go and flow by itself naturally. But you got to sign up to the YouTube. This is the last time I'm going to talk about it. The YouTube website, the Cannabis Coffee Hour YouTube. Because I do think like that idea of being a little too hungry for stuff, that's what I'm trying to get rid of. You know, I'm just trying to get rid of being hungry, being full. Like, a lot of it's sitting in contentment and just being the observer. That's what I've been trying to work with my meditation, is just to observe. And the less I talk is more, which is funny that I enjoy doing the Cannabis Coffee Hour, because I do think, like, this week I had I didn't feel like doing stand-up. I couldn't do nothing, man. It took me out for a minute. But, you know, doing this podcast weekly, keeping it up, helps me, you know, just stay kind of in that zone, whether it's podcasting or doing stand-up or acting. Hopefully this writer strike will finish up soon. I got my new reel. Oh, excuse me. My acting reel all together. It's just like just one of those chores that I don't do a lot. And now I'm kind of caught up with everything. Like, that's what I'm figuring out is like, everything's going to happen. A lot of it's just like not burning out and kind of pacing yourself, I think, is what society is learning. That's what I'm learning. And that's what the podcast is about, is to get up and out there and figure out, I'm doing my 5 Tibetan stretches. I'm doing 20-minute meditation. I didn't ask the timer until like 10 seconds to go. But now I've gotten the 20 minutes down to a point where like right when I'm feeling antsy is right about the 20-minute mark. And that is like a long time to do it, to meditate. But just lately, I've just been thinking a lot of it like exercise for your brain. And I think with everything, with all the social media and all the media and all the hype, and who knows where AI is going, and all the stress of modern day, futuromics that we're living in. Meditation and stretching and mushrooms and journaling and applying yourself towards your source, towards what was that thing I was talking about? Oh yeah, graffiti. I wanted to talk about graffiti and memes, like internet, like. Is memes, like there's a lot of internet graffiti, it's kind of like leaving a trace up there of who you are in that moment and being like, check it out. New York runs on graffiti. It just never stops. And a lot of it's bad because security has gotten so good. It's never as good unless it's like curated for a building and it's like, paid for. By a guy that was probably a real graffiti artist and then had to make a mortgage and get his shit together when he was 38 and started doing commercial art, which is, I'm never on any type of punk rock. Like, you got to do what I definitely think I want to lean more into artistic stuff because it is kind of so gunky out there, and there's so much gunk that the real deal Holyfield stuff, sticks. Like art, in graffiti, like it's a one of a kind type of situation. And I think that's what people are looking for with a world of such mass production. Like when you see one of a kind or something that's great that you may never see again. That's kind of the trippy part with art that I'm always like, it trips me out. How a painting gets to be so expensive. But that wasn't until somebody told me, like, there's only one of those paintings. And the value of it, And that's, the infinite value of a human individual. At this point, with all this AI, is like, you can't duplicate individuality. You just can't. If you really, like, hone in. That's when I'm like kind of bringing the energy closer and closer and closer to who you really are. I guess that's, kind of the stuff that I've been working with and kind of like meditating on and journaling about because it just seems like that time. But maybe that's just because I had an extraction on my tooth. I have been listening to a lot of beats. I do love hip hop. Like I can't complain. And I've been watching like videos of dudes that make beats. I always slide back into hip hop for some reason. When I catch myself, like I'm trying to be aware of where my mind is. But when I catch myself, I'm always like watching somebody making beats and how they make beats. I find fascinating. Because now with all the electronics and, it's so... You can check out my album Caffeinated Dope Rhymes, which is on Spotify and on iTunes. Check it out, and YouTube. It has my tunes, but play it, download it, buy it, get it. I stand behind that product. My raps, when I look back at them, I mean, they're not the best, and I never wanted to be like the best. I didn't grow up on Eminem. Like I grew up on Run DMC, the Beasties, LL, like rock chem. Like I was the golden age and a huge hip hop nerd. Not even a nerd. I was a breakdancer, so I can't say I was a nerd. Maybe it looked like a nerd. But I always say like breakdancing or even like popping and locking. Like dancing is, it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable, and you're kind of showing your vulnerability at a scale that it just like negative. It drives negative people crazy because you can't deny the joy. Something like that. I was going to do a hip hop song called Something Like That. One of my favorite sayings, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Homeboy Sandman, go hard. That's a great tune. And now he's getting like some mainstream love. I'm not like totally dialed into ever since like magazines went out. It's hard to understand what's cool and what's not. And I know people live on the websites and stuff like that. But being as a cat from the 90s is like I see all websites kind of as the same thing, the internet. So like Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine meant a whole lot. Source Magazine. But all that went away. That leverage, that power, that like, I think they're all there. They're probably their websites are bigger than the magazine. But I do like magazines. I do love physical things, books. I think everything physical, everything that's not going to be the internet, will have a greater sense of value after a moment. That's why I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have gotten rid of some of this antique stuff, man. Some of this stuff is going to be worth something down the line. Anything like wood making, anything old is going to be, I don't know. A lot of it's like storing and taking care of things. And the older I get, the more minimal. I did do like a full clean. I cleaned out all my bowls and bongs. Well, just one bowl. But it felt good to do, but it's such a mess, it's such a brutal part of that, that's why I do like about legalization is like the pre-roll situation. And I think those little skinny, like low THC pre-roll, cigarettes will be more of the norm, especially after COVID, like people just aren't passing blunts and joints like that. Sometimes they are. I mean, after all that, we're still coming out of this pandemic. I'm healing from the pandemic, healing from an extraction, just straight up healing, being soft. After a while, like going hard, that's the only thing about New York and going hard and pushing it. Sometimes you push it away and you got to let things breathe. But it's hard to make things breathe. Tom Petty, the waiting's the hardest part. But yeah, I've been listening to that. And then, I talked about on the last podcast, all the Grateful Dead. I haven't been able to eat. I've been killing soups. My new thing is like chicken noodle soup. I get a good can of like Progresso chicken noodle soup, and then I chop a bunch of kale, and then I cook the kale in the chicken noodle soup. And the chicken noodle soup has carrots, and it kind of mixes with the kale. It's a good combo. I give a shout out to chicken noodle soup with kale in it any day of the week. I can cook. That's the only thing about paying for shit when I go out. Like, I can cook really well if I have like everything set up. What did I make the other day? Made some bomb-ass eggs the other day. Yeah, that's what I did. I just took 2 eggs, avocado oil, and then just let them fry up in a small pan, sunny side up. But then I put 2 slices of Swiss cheese on top of that. And then I put a bunch of spinach on top of that. And then I put a few onions and tomatoes. And I know it sounds like an omelet, but I kind of did it like 2 sunny side eggs and just a little veggie, a little cheese, and flip over top of each other. So it's like super simple. And then with some like really clean oil and fresh cracked pepper, it was slamming. And I hadn't had like good protein. Like I don't go hardcore on meat, especially with this thing, with this extraction. I haven't been able to um, eat solid foods that much. And when I do it, it hurts, which is a weird thing. But also I'm getting used to it, and just that over consuming, like eating when you're not hungry, feeding, all that stuff, all that like kind of control thing, self control, like plays with itself with all this stuff. Um, doing minimalism. I heard somebody like, even like, with cannabis or mushrooms, like I think, you could apply some of those concepts to that and get a greater impact is the weird thing, with everything. But I think there's a time to rock out, and then there's a time to be minimal, and then there's a time never to think about it ever again. But yeah, that coffee, Kirkland's medium roast, and it's already ground, so it kind of skips a couple steps, but it's also good. Um, Sometimes just the canned ground stuff is not, it doesn't cut the mustard. But this, just because specifically I think it's medium roast and it's a little bit fresher, like it's actually made for what it is, which is dope. Yeah, Billy Strings. I've been listening to a lot of Billy Strings. Um, a little bit of punk, Grateful Dead, Jurassic 5, Queens of the Stone Age, lots of Zen videos, and some Sly and the Family Stones. That's been the vibe lately. You can always look back, it's kind of like looking at your journal, it's like your web history browser is almost like your journal. But I will say I do get a lot out of journaling. Like I never thought that was a thing. I mean, I did it, but I did it for a while, a couple times here and there, and I know it was good for writing. But in terms of like getting your thoughts out on a page and kind of looking at it day to day, it does, I don't know, it definitely helps. So Maryland adult use, I just went to the normal page. Let's check out a couple cannabis stories here. Maryland adult use marijuana legalization laws take effect this week. Yeah, Maryland's always been kind of wide open with cannabis. I haven't been down there as much, but DC was super wide open. Um, let's see. Legalization permits adults to possess, home cultivate, and purchase personal use quantity cannabis. Takes effect Saturday, July 1st. Beginning that day, those age of 21 or older are legally possess up to 1.5 ounces of cannabis flower. Okay. Okay. So yeah, it just seems like that's gone fully legal in Maryland, which is fascinating, man. The stuff is that's what I love about doing this podcast, is that I do get to keep up with some of the stuff that I'm interested in. There was one other story that I thought was interesting. Let's see, what's this one? Cannabis products safe and effective for treating generalized anxiety disorder. Okay. Yeah, for general anxiety, I think it's good. I also think it can kick it in. It's a lot like coffee. Like both of them, you have to be somewhat aware of where your head's at. But I have been running on it so long that and then with this extraction, like I was like, oh man, I just need to smoke. My face hurts. And it was a lot better than ibuprofen. Put on a Grateful Dead show on YouTube. send out some emails, do a podcast. I've been looking at doing some more artwork for the podcast. So I'm definitely interested in talking to anybody that, is I definitely like to talk to all kinds of different art. Like I have simple ideas moving forward with kind of changing the logo and like kind of changing the format just a little bit to almost where it's like a mixtape is kind of where I want to go. I'm going to be doing some out on the field broadcasting. I was invited to do like a picketing for the writer's strike, and I was going to maybe do a pickup of like hanging out there. That way, I love to getting on the mic and talking for a few hours and all of that, and seeing where it may go after a few bowls, which is what happened today. Episode 225, 25. That's a hard number, 4 25s is 100. 4 more. Dude, 225. Like, soon it's going to be 500 every week coming at you. The Cannabis Coffee Hour. It's been fun. I just think it's a good spot for a comedian to have like a centralized podcast that he could check in with his fan. Like you guys could check in, smoke a little bit of weed, drink some coffee, check out. I don't have any shows up now, but I'll have some big shows coming up. I have a couple different ideas on stand up. It's just everybody with Eventbrite and all this stuff. It's like in social media, which I never have taken that serious. But please sign up to my Instagram, which is Rob88Cantrell. It just helps centralize like who I'm talking to out there. I've been doing this for a while, and I have like, when I know that it's like a lot of my fans, it is like a cool crowd. I have to say, like some cats I think have just like douchebag crowds, and whoever I'm bringing out is nice, is what the vibe. And that's what I think it's going to take a little bit longer, but as I build with the podcast, as cannabis gets legal, as I'm getting more and more interested in filmmaking and writing and producing and punching up stuff, and I can bring people in and talk about it, and also have coffee and cannabis. I want to talk to that guy from Back Home Cannabis. That's like one of my favorite growers right now, and all the price points with the legalized. It's Housing Works and then Faded are the two places I've gone that is completely legal in New York City. So shout out Housing Works and Faded. The reason I like going, there is these other spots, and I do like them, and weed is weed at the end of the day, but I know there's just a part of me that as I get older, I just don't, I do want it kind of regulated in the point of, I just want to know where it's coming from. At least, But at the same time, it's just been really sloppy that there's only 2 dispensaries that are legal that I know of, and how much I love cannabis. I know there's a couple others. And on the New York government website, they have them up. So it's just wild how like these states, and now it's even, how many states is it? It seems like it's over half the states now have at least, I don't think it's half yet, but it's almost. It's all the cool states. Now, everywhere's cool. That's the other thing about I love being in New York and the access to everything in terms of stand-up, in terms of comedy and entertainment. It's just a good place for me right now. But with the internet and just with meditation in space, it's literally you should think of it like everywhere is dope. You just can create what you can create with the energy there. And I think you can set it up. But sometimes you have to get up and out and just flow with it. But just the world, my mission in life just has not dragged me, just kind of flung me. And now I've just been in New York for 15 years. What was I looking up? 23 states out of 50 states, man, have legal cannabis. The recreational use of cannabis has been legalized in 23 states, 3 other U.S. territories, and D.C. Another 8 states decriminalized its use. Commercial distribution has been legalized in all jurisdictions where possession has been legalized except Virginia and D.C. Now that doesn't even make sense. Possession, but you can't sell it. Okay. But legal for medical, legal for recreational use. Wow. I'm trying to say, I was trying to name the states. Alaska, that's recreational. Arizona. I've been hearing about like hotels in Arizona. Like there's cannabis. Arizona's, let's go check. I need to do some gigs out there. California, Colorado. These are all good states. Connecticut. Okay. Delaware. Yeah. Florida. Illegal. Look at that. Illinois. You're legal. Maine. Maryland. Massachusetts. Michigan. Minnesota. Missouri. Montana. Nevada. New Jersey. New York, Oregon, like these are all like major states. Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia. Oh, go Virginia. District of Columbia. Nice. So those are all the states that it's been legalized. That's wild. And I just think that we haven't even figured out, what exactly it is in some sense. It was, under such a different cloud of social graces for so long that it's just it's just set up. It's going to be set up different in the future. I just think legalized can't. I see more like weed drink products. People, people are more open about it. People are more, but then people are, I don't know. Weed's always got like its own weird scene going on, and that's why I kind of want. I think it's kind of like what I was saying before about giving value to something, making the space. And right now, like the weed space is, it's a little grimy, like all weed spaces. You got to clean out your bongs and you got to clean out your pipes. But it's also, just great to blaze a bowl when you had your tooth extracted. And you can numb it down like that and get some sleep. I always said, I think I've seen more of that, like more minor, like I was walking into the legal dispensary. I was like, what, should I keep smoking weed? I think all people think about it, And then I saw this old dude walking in there in front of me, and I was like, yeah, I think that's what it's for. Like, not all times in life, but especially like in New York City, my bones and stuff. Like, that's why I stretch constantly and always like have to change out and have good shoes on, because this town will fuck your ankles and feet up. And that's one of the reasons I have my song, Rub My Feet, which I've put on as my head video on YouTube just recently. It's my highest video. It's not a foot fetish song, even though I do think it gets clicks because of it, which is a whole other weird thing, But check out Rub My Feet. And that's on my Caffeinated Dope Rhymes album. Like, I've been looking at beats. I've been trying to play my guitar. Everything's just in this weird standstill. But I'm still doing, like, I'm getting called, or, my body's like, do some creative shit. It's in there. It's kind of like this thing that you just kind of like I don't know, man. It's a weird path that I chose, but I have enjoyed it. And I always kind of visualized having some type of radio show or have some type of voice out there. So But doing the everyday thing, like hats off to Howard Stern and all these guys on Sirius XM, like doing like 4 to 5 hours of pod or like audio with guests every day. That's hardcore. Like doing it a week is just around the right time. And sometimes I stress out about doing this podcast, even though I shouldn't. It's literally the chillest podcast of all time. I talk about my coffee, talk about stretching, I talk about cannabis. And it is fascinating. Damn, 23 states. You know, soon it's going to be 25, then it's going to be over places that, okay, gray, illegal. Texas is just straight up illegal. Boise, okay. Illegal. Wisconsin, illegal. But then there's blue states like right next to it. North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. That's a lot of good a lot of good weed smokers are all over that place. It's going to change. Everything's changing right now. But that's what's so dope about like just meditation, just being a part of your own essence and being a part of the observer. And that's what I've been trying to think of. One of my favorite bands, Rare Essence, a DC go-go band, 3 in the morning, Work the Walls, all kinds of DC go-go funk jams. But they also in meditation, they talk about the essence. And that's why that band has such a dope name. Jay-Z stole one of their song lyrics for his rap. Everybody knows that. But Rare Essence, great DC go-go band. The essence, that's a great word, essence. Because everything has its essence. And it's kind of like vibes. Even though I think vibes is being played out right now. Everything, just things kind of just go through phases. Life goes through phases. And now it's a heavy vibe phase. The dude from Russia, man, the Wagner group, he just like flipped out, and then the next day he was like, "No, I didn't do it." I know I wasn't going to talk about Russian politics, but man, all of it's like so crazy and out there right now that just treating everything as its essence, you can kind of see it a little bit better and feel it. But at the same time, you got to make money. Dollars making sense. That's always been kind of the struggle with the artist. But a lot of it, I do think, is the more it's just like being in doing your essence, getting present with your essence, and then and I was always like, how do you not judge? But now I'm learning like how much of that brain activity of judgments, or even like once you see something safe and cool, like you just be the observer and kind of flow through the situation. That's what I had to do with The Extraction, and it was brutal. But you have to just go with it, and then you just kind of heal up. And thank God you have cannabis to do that. A little bit of coffee, a little bit of cannabis, a little bit of vibes, a little bit of music. That's the gig. And I'm usually happy for every episode and every cup of coffee, every moment. Back to graffiti and memes. Kind of like this whole thing of being seen and graffiti and like showbiz and art. Presence. Podcasting. It all kind of comes together in some weird way. Every moment is like when I look at a plant, like I'm always like how it grows to kind of even itself out. Like everybody's just trying to find the balance. So when you see people that are off balanced, it's mostly just because they're off balanced. I feel imbalanced. The earth is in a weird stage right now. Like I always kind of like go back and forth with like the environment as well and how much I can really do. But I do think like I do have like impulses to clean stuff up, and I do like one of those, like I go around the park and some days in the city like the trash got fucked up. It's picked up wrong, or somebody kicked it over and there's just like awful ass plastic and funky ass shit everywhere. And I want one of those claws, like those long things that have like, you claw the thing. And I want to have one of those and some rubber gloves and just kind of go to town and just clean up. What about just the stick with the nail on it? You never see that. We need to bring back that thing. Just picking up cups, picking up crap. But everybody's doing that. The recycling cats are everywhere too. It's a wild world, man. But that's why I always trip out when I watch old movies and see like, especially New York City, like old footage. You're just like, look at all those lives. Look at all those 8 million stories. Oh, Curtis Blow. 8 million stories. That's a great Curtis Blow song. I definitely pumped some Curtis Blow. I definitely listened. Basketball was like his big hit. But that whole album, like that came like right before Run DMC. It kind of like set the stage. And then after Run DMC, but Homeboy Sandman, I guess what I was thinking about, I don't mean to brag, or like he's getting all this mainstream love. And I remember I sent him around like to friends and they're like, ah. I'm like, no, this guy's going to blow. And the same dude also did the same thing. I mean, Run the Jewels I saw early on. And this is not like a name droppy thing, but I remember being like, this is going to be ill. I kind of knew LP from what was it, Bombs Over Brooklyn, or there was like he has a I kind of knew some of that obscure rap that was going on, and I knew he was good. And then when I saw Run the Jewels and I heard like maybe like one track, I knew it was going to be fucking huge. And then I was touring with Doug Benson and we did a show, and he was friends with the guys from 311, and we went to the 311 concert, and Cypress Hill was open for him. And that was like a cool moment. I got to smoke a joint with Be Real in a van with Doug Benson in their camper. But I remember he had a website up and it had Run the Jewels. It was like a rap radar, like kind of like up and coming joint. And he was listening to it and I was like, oh shit, man, I was right. Because if he's listening, it's like, comedians know which ones are like the really good ones. And I know rappers are probably the same thing, But I will say that the last few that I've like caught my eye end up blowing up. Well, not blowing up. I mean, everything's like, that kind of goes to like mainstream. But once mainstream, like then it goes into a whole other atmosphere. Like Taylor Swift, like, almost like it's just so big. It's almost like a huge corporation at that point. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I think all artists should make as much money as they can. And I don't want to hate on money. That's the thing, is like, you need people with a lot of money to buy art. So it's kind of this weird, like everything's connected, man. And everybody needs to chill out. I haven't eaten mushrooms in a long time, and I think I should soon. Just gotta wait for the right moment. Like it's not party moment or city moment. I just need a few days out in nowhere land. But every time I get that, I do a lot of sleeping and catching up. And, with meditation, I think it almost feels like I'm tripping all the time anyway. Like it's kind of weird that way. I don't know. But I'm going to wrap it up for 225 for the Cannabis Coffee Hour. This has been a good one. I had some great Kirklands. We talked about some hip hop. We talked about life. We talked about, shout out to Back Home Cannabis, Pot of Gold strain. One of my favorites of all time. New York has just the legal cannabis that New York has is really good. And even some of the other stuff is there's just so many out there. It's kind of hard to get a reading on that. But it's also, there's like California stuff all over, weed is everywhere. Good or bad, I don't know yet. But that's the other thing is just not judging. Like, I never want to be too political with the cannabis thing, I guess, is what I'm saying. Is like, because I kind of see a need for the black market, and I also see a need for legal, and I kind of see it's just an old ass industry that's been around forever, and everybody's trying to figure it out as we grow into legalization and having podcasts and drinking coffee. All right, peace, love. I'm out.